Have you ever had your senses overloaded? Have you ever been the one that could see something play out when you were in a crowd of people and you thought it was so obvious, but nobody else caught on? You were the only one clued in? So today, we're going to be talking about unlocking your sensory superpowers to unlock the guide to understanding your sensory processes when you're autistic. So, hi there, superstars. I'm reading from a script. Welcome to another exciting episode of Finding Your Hidden Superpower, Autism, Asperger's, and those of us who are neurodiverse. Today, we're diving into the fascinating world of sensory processing for autistic people. Have you ever wondered why you might be more sensitive to certain sounds, textures, or experiences? Or have you ever sought out new sensory input? Well, buckle up because we're about ready to unlock your sensory superpowers. Before we jump in, please hit subscribe, ring the bell notification, ding ding, so you can experience all the fantastic content that I bring to you. And if you find this video helpful, give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends and let your friends know about what I'm doing here. And I hope you like what I do. Some people have some difficulties dealing with the science behind this, but I'm all about the truth, and I'm going to give you the truth, and I'm going to give you science behind it. So right now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 9 clinical studies are backing up the content from this video. So I just had to check, and I will give you links to all of them, and you're free to check out what's going on with your senses by reading more information. So now let's get started. Sensory process is about how the brain interprets and organizes information from our senses. But some of us, especially those on the autism spectrum, our sensory superpowers can be slightly different from others. Recent studies have shown that many people with autism have unique sensory process experiences, such as sensory over-responsivity, when your senses are easily overwhelmed by certain stimuli, like loud noises or bright lights, or lots of people and lots of chaos. So sensory under responsivity, when you might not notice or react to sensory input that others typically would. Are you sensory seeking? When you crave sensory input and actively search for it, like touching different textures or even spinning. The Grateful Dead have people that dance, and all they do, a lot of females, they'll just spin and spin and spin for hours and hours and hours. And that's how they dance. And they have lots of fun. And if you haven't, if you don't know much about the Grateful Dead, just catch a couple videos of them playing live and look at the audience. And if you see people spinning, you know that, and you like to spin, you may be in the right crowd. So check them out. So these sensory differences can impact various aspects of life, from communication and social skills to participate in daily activities. But it's essential to remember that these unique sensory experiences are part of what makes you extraordinary. Now let's talk about the science behind sensory processing in autism. While researchers are still working on understanding the whole picture, current studies suggest that sensory processing differences in autism may be linked to the following: difference in brain connectivity. In an earlier episode, I talked about how there's certain aspects of our brains that are where we are over connected, and then there's some other spots of our brain that can be underconnected. And one of the problems behind that is because there's a lot of high end activity in certain aspects of an autistic person's brain, and then that connectivity may not be able to transport itself through electrical energy to other parts of the brain to where the message is transported from A to Z. So we can have problems with what's called processing speed, where we can be over processing certain aspects, especially in our uh, cortex, because of our eyes tend to be more sensitive and be able to pull in more data than neurotypical people. And what can happen through that is because there's more input going in through our eyes and through our visual cortex, but the processing might not be at the equal rate of speed. So then what we can be diagnosed with is a processing disorder, and we can be shown as having low processing speed, but it might just be that we're bringing in way more input than certain parts of our brain are able to deal with. So what happens is that we get things from any of our senses. We can be getting more of that, and then all of a sudden it may take longer to process that. So if somebody tells us a joke, we may be the last one to laugh, or we may not get it at all. So, or we may get it very quickly, and we may be able to get it before anybody else. We may be able to see things that other people don't see in crowds because we're able to focus in on one aspect of that. Or at the same time, we may get overwhelmed because there's too many things to process from the crowd. So it all depends on your flavor of autism, because your flavor of autism is going to be different than mine. The main way that doctors diagnose us is through how we are not getting along with the neurotypical people that make up the other 97% of the population. And so there's problems, there's bullying as early as 4 years of age because we're the ones not getting it and they are. And so then we're elected the strange ones, and that can form, connection problems with the crowds, and we may tend to isolate because crowds may be too much for us as children, and it may take us a long time to figure that out. So depending on what your flavor of autism is, you're going to have different senses that are probably going to be stronger than neurotypical people, and other senses that are weaker than neurotypical people, and then other problems with just processing to getting an even signal to be able to understand all that data that's coming to you. So you need to train yourself, and this isn't a whole article about training, but I will get into that in the near future. But we're just diving into this holistically, just an overview. So our findings give us valuable insights into what's happening in our brains and how to address sensory challenges. So, how we support our sensory superpowers? Here are some proven strategies. There's different types of therapy. Occupational therapy, which is a customized program designed to help you develop skills and strategies for managing sensory experiences. Sensory integration therapy, a specialized approach to help your brain process and integrate sensory information more effectively. Sensory diets and environmental modifications, creating a personalized plan to introduce specific sensory input throughout the day and adjust your environment to minimize sensory challenges. Because one of the problems with us autistic people is that our brains could be working inefficiently. In order to understand our world and understand our day, understand our interactions, we may be burning a lot more energy in our brains in order to process all this information that's coming to us. And at the end of the day, or even depending on our diet, how our diet is, if we're eating a lot of sugary stuff, we could be having problems with our insulin. We can be getting sugar highs and sugar lows, which are definitely not going to affect our mood. And they could also help cause a lot of trigger problems and a lot of dysfunction with getting along with people. So you really have to look into how to make your body more efficient and how to understand the world better. And everybody has to do that, but it seems that us autistic people, us neurodivergent people, we have a lot harder of a time dealing with reality just because it's coming into us in a different way than neurotypical people. It doesn't mean we're any better or any worse than anybody else. We're just different. And a lot of the times, the crowd does not like people that are different. Society wants everybody to be the same. They want people to be normal, but there is no such thing as normal. So don't try to be normal. Try and be the best version of who you are. And let people know, give them feedback. You don't have to go into your whole story about autism, about how you're labeling yourself as autistic, as defective, or as handicapped, or all those negative stereotypes. You don't have to do that. Just let them know, hey, I have these little things that are different about me that and you can say, you already know why and how I'm different. I'm a bit weird. So just own it. Just take it and own it and figure out how the best weird you can be. And so remember, every individual is unique. So finding what works best for you is crucial. And feel free to reach out to professionals for guidance and support. Yes, very much. Reach out to professionals. And one of the things is that not all professionals know what to do. They don't have all the answers. They might not have any answers for you. So you may have to go through a bunch of them. And don't be afraid to do that. And just don't lash out at them, and just explain that this isn't working out. I've tried what you suggested, and if it's not working for you, let them know that it's not working for you, because they are there to service you. But you can't treat them like servants, because that ain't going to work. That'll go in your file. That'll be written about in your notes that you're difficult. And then people that get hired on, they'll be looking to get rid of you as soon as they can. Because if you're difficult, they'll automatically look for your difficulties instead of how you really want to change for the positive and make their life better. And because you're able to communicate with them better about what your needs are. The bottom line is you need to understand what your needs are. Because if all you say is, well, I don't know, this is the way I am, people have to accept me for who I am, I ain't going to cut it. It just doesn't work that way. You'll just be thought of as a difficult person, and they'll try and boot you as fast as they can because it can move on to somebody else that's easier to work with. So, in conclusion, understanding and embracing our sensory superpowers can improve our daily lives, communication, and social skills. So let's celebrate our unique sensory experiences and continue to unlock our full potential. So, what it comes down to is we have senses. We have hearing, we have touch, we have taste, we have feelings, we have different body sensations, and we have different emotions that come out. That can be good, that can be bad, they can be harmful, they can be helpful. So, what you need to do is you need to look at yourself, and you have to take ownership of what's going on with you. If you're understanding the world differently than somebody else around you, look for how you're better in certain aspects than other people and use that to your advantage, because you can turn that into gold, because all of a sudden you're an expert in being able to figure something out because your senses are more in tune to that. If you're very good at hearing, maybe you're good at music. So, being a musician isn't all that it's cracked up to be as far as making lots of money from it, but you can have fun, enjoy your life, and maybe DJ on the side or be a musician that plays on weekends, and then you become popular. And be, I mean, rock stars always get the girls, and so you can all of a sudden you don't have to be the best looking guy around, but if you can bring emotion, bring out emotion in a woman, she will want to know you. And if you can have that magic and you can bring it. And so figure out what your strengths are, figure out what your what your sensory superpowers are, and develop those. And in the future, we'll be getting more into that. But for now, have a great evening and stay classy.